Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Coach's Corner. I'm Kyle Berger, and on today's show we'll be talking with Coach Pettin about last week's 27-24 victory over CB East and this week's matchup against the Neshaminy Redskins, a Suburban 1 showdown. But first, let's take a look back at the highlights from the CB East game. So to the highlight reel we go, and we will see Brian Scott get things started for CB East on their first drive on this 32-yard pass from quarterback Justin Habel. Patriots lead 7-0. On the ensuing kickoff, the Knights tried to do a little something different, running a sort of rugby scrum out of this return, but Aaron Thomas does his best roadkill imitation on the 7-yard line and gets plastered by the Central Bucks East defense. But that would set up this drive for the Knights, their first of the game, which was led by Heike Johnson here on this 33-yard option towards midfield, a good run by the sophomore. And the Knights would stick with Johnson, getting good work from him on this drive, on this off-tackle play on 3rd and long to get that first down for the Knights. Johnson keeps up his good work, now running on the sweep to the right side, getting all the way down inside the 5-yard line. And 2 plays later, he would go into the end zone himself again, getting this touchdown right side off tackle. The score would be 7-7. In the next quarter, North Penn got his first lead of the game coming up here on Tom Parentosi's 7-yard keeper on the left sweep. Now, CB East would come back with this reverse by Manny Stupakis. He ran about 100 yards on this play, but only got about 40 yards upfield, juking left and right, running side and side, all the way down into North Penn territory past Kenrick Smith at midfield, and finally taken out of bounds at the 40. That was not a fumble. 2 plays later, Brian Scott picked up his second touchdown of the game on this Habel fade pattern, a mirror image of his first touchdown, and he's into the end zone, making the score 14-14. The Knights would try on their last drive of the half on a Hail Mary pass to get back in the lead, but when Tom Parentosi, as we will see, rolls out here out of the shotgun looking for Evan Fitzpatrick, he connects with him, but he's short of the end zone, and that's how the half would end. Score tied at 14-14. East had a chance for a touchdown in the second half on this 3rd down play, Habel rolling out, but he one-hops his receiver, Troy Lavinia, into the end zone. But CB East on 4th down would get this 32-yard field goal by kicker Tim Becker coming up. And the ball is spotted, the kick is up, and it's good. 17-14 CB East. Brian Scott now in the 4th quarter getting his 3rd touchdown on the game on this neat reverse play. Habel does a good job of selling the fake, but Scott goes into the end zone, outrunning Kenrick Smith, making it 24-14 East. Knights are down by 10, they need 2 scores. So North Penn would start their drive getting this wide receiver screen from Heike Johnson. That's a play that's been working well for the Knights all year. 28 yards on that play. Now on 3rd and long, Parentosi's going to throw this ball into a pack of players. He's going deep on this play. And look at this, Heike Johnson wide open down inside the 5-yard line. And once the Knights have that ball around the goal line, you know who it's going to. It's going to be Nate Vielhauer picking up the carry on 4th and goal. Into the end zone he goes, and the Knights are within 3, 24-21. Now all the Knights had to do is make the Patriots go 3 and out on the ensuing drive, and that's just what they did. Brian Scott up the middle is plastered by Martin Leonard after picking up only 2 yards. And on the very next play, it's Jeff Bloom's turn to kill Brian Scott, and he gets him at the line of scrimmage. So the Patriots are forced to pass, and Habel fakes a reverse to Scott and rolls right, flushed out of the pocket. Good job by Dave Koslow to make the quarterback scramble, and he does not get the first down. So the Patriots would have to punt. And they do. The high snap fielded by Habel, and he gets the ball away. But Lou Mims gets an excellent return out towards midfield for the Knights. And that would set up their final drive, running the 2-minute drill to perfection with no timeouts left. The Knights had just 48 yards between them and victory. And Kenrick Smith picks up a huge play on 3rd and long, picking up several yards to set up first down. And another Parentosi pass to Smith got the ball inside that 5-yard line down toward the 1. And 2 plays later, after Parentozzi spikes the ball to stop the clock. It's Nate Vielhauer. Touchdown Knights. 27-24, the Knights have the lead. They needed an extra point to make CB East score a touchdown to win the game instead of kicking a field goal, and they do not get it as it is blocked by R.J. White of CB East. So, CB East has a chance to come back, but on the first play, on the ensuing drive, Hable is destroyed by Dave Costello and Jeff Bloom. And on the next play, Hable throws a perfect pass, except it's right to North Penn's Lou Mims, and that seals the deal. As the Knights go on to win 27-24, all they needed to do was get a kneel from Tom Parentozzi, and they do just that. Once again, that final score, 27-24, as Coach Pettin's troops improved to 6-1 and will play Neshaminy on Friday. We will be back after this with Coach Pettin and two of his guest players on the team. We'll be talking about that win against CB East and the Neshaminy matchup this Friday. Once again, a key matchup in Suburban 1 football. Neshaminy only one game behind North Penn in the playoff race. Whoever wins that has a good shot at getting into the playoffs. Stay with us. We'll be back after this.
They've given our generation a label, X, Generation Nothing. They say we have no sense of purpose. They say we have no cause to believe in. Who are they? Join the thousands of us who are making a difference and wear a label that does mean something.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Coach's Corner. Joining me now, as always, is Coach Mike Pettin of the North Penn football team, and joining me today are two of the defensive stars in last week's CB East game, Mike Mays and Jeff Bloom. Now, Coach, let's talk a little bit about that East game, 27-24 win. Give you a little bit of momentum going into the Neshaminy game, and that 2-minute drill run pretty well at the end of the game. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's something that we work on every week, and hopefully it's something that we don't have to use, but it's kind of there as an insurance thing. The kids executed it well, and we really didn't go any true no huddle. There was only one play where we lined up and ran a play out of it, but it was just that the biggest part was not so much the plays that we were running. It was just the way the kids kept their composure and stayed focused. When the crowd's going crazy like that, and you know the game's on the line, and it's real easy to get rattled and to kind of lose it a little bit. But I thought that the most impressive part of the drive was the way the kids handled themselves.
Now on offense, Heike Johnson, Tom Parentozzi, and Kenrick Smith, your offensive players of the game, all had huge efforts. Heike Johnson always seems to step it up when he's going against a counterpart running back that has a good reputation. He had a great game against Ben Salem, against Keith Davis, and this game against Brian Scott. He's starting to make a name for himself around the league, like Scott did last year as a sophomore. Do you see him really blossoming into a good player that you expected at the beginning of the year?
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's really living up to his expectations and then some. I mean, I think he's probably further along than where we anticipated him being. I mean, he was a guy that we thought, hey, we'll get him some playing time, maybe he'll do some good things for us, but he is not only offensively did he play well, defensively, with the injury to Jason Payne, he was thrust into having to play our outside linebacker position, which he played very well.
Now, Tom Parentozzi had arguably his best game of the year at the quarterback position. He was 4 for 5 on that last drive, and the only incompletion was a spike to stop the clock. And he hooked up with Kenrick Smith, I believe, 3 times on that drive. And that Parentozzi to Smith connection has sort of replaced the Parentozzi to Payne connection. Has Smith become the main target for Tom now?
Well, we don't like to have what we call a main target. We'd like to spread it around a little bit just so teams can't kind of key on one guy. But in that situation, I felt that the coverages that East was giving us and the matchup that we had with Kenrick split out into the boundary isolated against one of their defensive backs, we like that matchup, so that's something that we went to a couple times in that last drive.
Now on defense against Brian Scott, obviously he had over 100 yards rushing and close to 100 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Against a running back like that, you really can't stop him. What did you do on defense to adjust to a running back of Brian Scott's caliber?
Well, it's just one thing with a guy who has great speed. You always want to make sure that you take good angles. But other than that, I mean, you just tell your guys, don't give up on a play, beat your block, do your job. We talked in terms of all during the week about his ability to cut back, so we wanted to make sure that that our guys were staying in their cutback lanes and keeping their shoulders square to the ball, things like that. And you just really have to stress the fundamentals when you're playing against a player of that caliber.
Okay, now over to Jeff Bloom, one of the defensive linemen for the Knights. And Jeff, you had a great game, came up with a couple big stops late in the fourth quarter on CBE's final drive against Brian Scott. What did you feel was the big key to the game on defense?
Well, beating blocks was a big key, like Coach said, and mostly it was just stopping the run and getting them back like for a loss instead of a gain.
Now, like I said in the fourth quarter, that last drive, the defense really stepped it up. Now, as a member of that defensive line, did you have to pump those guys up in the huddle at all? Did you feel that you had to step it up yourself?
Well, pretty much everyone was fired up because it was like the last drive, and we knew we had to stop them there. So we really stepped it up. We didn't have to fire them up that much.
Now, also on offense, you're the center of the offensive line. It really seemed that you guys were, toward the end of the game, starting to control the offensive line. Tom had plenty of time to throw the ball on several occasions, and Heike Johnson had a huge game thanks to you guys. Did you work a lot on offensive line this week? You guys were really blowing the guys off the ball.
Well, we try and do that every week, and we just got to keep it up.
Okay, now over to Mike Mays. You played defensive end, defensive player of the game. Congratulations. Had a couple big tackles, and more than those tackles, you did a good job of containing Brian Scott, and against a big running back, that's all you can hope to do, basically, right?
Yeah, he's going to get his yards. You just have to keep him from scoring, basically.
Now, in offense, you were lined up sort of in the slot as a second tight end. Do you feel comfortable just being as sort of a blocking back in the backfield as opposed to being a tight end that's going to catch a lot of passes?
Yeah, wherever they want to put me, I'll play, whether it's blocking or catching, whatever.
Now, for you against Neshaminy this week, a big game, obviously, a showdown. Both teams, basically whoever wins this game is going to have the upper hand on the playoff race. As a captain of this team, are you going to be pumping these guys up this week a lot more than usual?
I don't know, a lot more than usual. Every game is big, especially when you're in the position that we're in. It's another game. It's a big game, yes, but we have to play like we've been playing and come out and do our job. Okay,
now back to Coach Pettin, looking at Neshaminy. When you think of Neshaminy, you're thinking Jim Dietz and Antoine Lovelace, the two wide receivers. But this week, they had a 69-36 win against Abington, in which they scored 10 touchdowns. And 4 of them were Frank DeSandros, and he had over 200 yards rushing. So does that throw your defensive scouting report for a loop a little bit, seeing that Neshaminy, mainly a passing team, now has this rushing threat in Frank DeSandro?
Well, no, he's been a pretty good back through most of the season. I mean, nobody we're playing at this point, you just can't ignore people. I mean, you still have to play, you still have to be able to defend the field. There are certain things you have to key on, and we'll get that from when we break the film down. But our emphasis this week will be obviously still to force them to do one thing or the other. If we can force them, if we can get them to know what they're going to do, then we'll be in good shape. So hopefully we'll defend the pass well, perhaps force them to run, and then we can key on that a little bit.
Yeah, of course, Neshaminy does have a very potent offense, but on defense, they've given up a ton of yards every game. They're averaging about 380 yards that they've given up a game. Are you really looking to attack them on the rushing offense?
Well, once again, has been our philosophy throughout the year. Against a great offense, sometimes your offense is your best defense. So that's what we felt. We did that against Ben Salem. I thought we did that at times against CB East. You play great defense when your defense isn't on the field. So if we can go out and we have the type of offense where we can drive 12, 14, 15 plays and eat up some clock, that's going to be our philosophy.
Now, in the playoff pictures, I was talking with Mike Mays. You and Neshaminy are basically deadlocked. I believe you guys might have a little step up in them in the points. But this win, if you win this week, will be a huge step in getting to that playoff in the District 1 playoffs. What do you look forward to do after this game, should you win it against Norristown 2 weeks down the road on Halloween night? You guys will be in Norristown, and they're not as strong of a team as everybody else in the league, but of course you can't overlook them.
Sure, they're dangerous, but as has been our philosophy throughout the year, and it's a cliche in football, is you got to go 1 week at a time. We're going to be totally focused on Neshaminy, and you can sit and talk about playoffs all you want, but you got to take care of business. So I think we're in a position where we control our own destiny, but that's what we have to do. We have to control it. We can't sit here and get caught up in reading the paper and comparing points. Our job is to go out and win football games, and then if on Halloween night we're still standing and have enough points to put us in, well, then that's great. We're in. But if not, we can't worry about that now. I mean, we have two more games to play.
Okay, that's all the time we have for this edition of Coach's Corner. I'd like to thank Coach Pettin, Mike Mays, and Jeff Bloom for being on the show today. This week on Friday night, the Knights play host to the Neshaminy Redskins in a Suburban 1 showdown. We'll have that for you on North Penn Television. I'll see you at the game.